So please welcome Mick Cornett.
Well, good afternoon. How many of you have, say, been in Oklahoma the last 5 years consecutive? Oh, gosh, most of you. How many of you have been here the last 10 years? All right, and so you're going to understand then the conversation I want to have with you about change. As I travel the country and sometimes even leave the country and get the opportunity to talk about Oklahoma and Oklahoma City's story, and one of the lines I use that has really never been debated, I say that Oklahoma City has had more change. No city in America has changed more than Oklahoma City. No city has come as far as fast as Oklahoma City. And much of that was set up by my predecessors who planted a lot of seeds, but I had the opportunity during those 14 years of being the mayor of Oklahoma City to oversee a lot of change, and I came away with all sorts of new perspectives. I finally figured out that there's 3 kinds of people in the world. There's one group of people who will tell you that they do not like change. And sure enough, when you change something, you find out that they were right. They're mad. There's another group, and this is a perplexing group. This group will tell you they like change, and then when you change something, you find out they were wrong. They're mad. And then there's a third group. This third group of people will tell you they like change, and they really do like change. The problem is that group is extinct. I like to think they existed somewhere around the invention of the wheel, and they saw the benefits, the way it could make things easier. And I exaggerate all of that for a point, because I think sometimes people take change for granted. And if you look at how quickly change is taking place, and largely through technology, it's an ever-increasing slope. I remember when I was a kid, my parents invested in the technology of the day. They got a telephone in their bedroom, and it was on the wall. I mean, I thought that was the coolest thing, because we had a telephone like most families in our neighborhood. It sat on the desk in the center of the house, and whoever was closest to the phone would run over there and answer it and call for whoever the phone was for, or take a message and you'd write it down on some big chalkboard. But my parents got an extension phone. I mean, this was like the space age. We hadn't landed on the moon very many years before that, and when I had friends over to play at my house, I would take them into my parents' room and show them the telephone on the wall. And we'd get on each telephone and we'd talk to each other, kind of like walkie-talkies. Well, fast forward, 45 years. My mother passed away in the same house where I had grown up, and we decided to sell the house. And I remember walking through the home for what I figured would be the last time. And I was going from room to room, and this is where I had grown up, and you can imagine all the memories that I could see in that house. And I finally got to my parents' bedroom, and I saw the phone on the wall. And I started recalling what that was like when it was brand new and how much it meant to me. And then instinctively I walked over and I took the phone and I listened to it, and there was a dial tone. 45 years later, that phone still worked. Now, here's where I'm going with this. Imagine most of you have a telephone with you. How many of you think you're going to have that telephone in 45 years? Yeah, you may not have it in 45 days. And instinctively, we get this idea that if our telephone is 2 or 3 years old, we got to get a new phone. Can't have an old phone. People we know have phones that do all sorts of new things. My phone doesn't do that. I got to get a new phone. And I use that story as an example of the quickness and the ever-quick pace that the world is changing. I served 4 terms as mayor. I was elected to the city council, and I was the face of several initiatives. And so I had opportunities to get in front of people and try to convince them to either vote for me or vote for whatever it was that I was pushing at the time. And I noticed after a series of elections and campaigns that there was this pattern that was developing. In other words, in every little neighborhood meeting that I would go to, I could understand that I would predictably see a certain type of person in the room. Usually they sat at the back by the door. But as I was giving it my best pitch, and I was giving it all the sound bites and bullet points as to why they should vote for me or vote for something that I was for, I would see a person at the back of the room scowling and shaking their head. And I would think to myself after a while that I could start making some summations about this person. I could figure out that, yeah, they probably don't like taxes, they don't like downtown, and they don't like me. And when I had lost the intellectual argument, when I had given it everything I had and could see that I was probably not going to convince them in a traditional way, I would close with this. I would say, well, all I can tell you is we're going to create a city where your kid and your grandkid are going to choose to live. Oh, they hate that argument because they know it's true. And if you were around in Oklahoma and Oklahoma City 30 years ago or so, what you saw then was really a generation of young people that left. You know, if you came of age and perhaps went off and got an advanced degree and it was 1980s and you were looking for a job that measured up to your educational attainment, you probably weren't going to find it in Oklahoma. And the result of that economic collapse was really a lost generation, a generation of talent that is now perhaps living in Dallas or Houston or Tokyo or New York, but most likely not in Oklahoma City. And so the strong economy that we've been able to create in Oklahoma City has far-reaching effects. And a lot of it has been the result of change over and over and over again. When you were in school, how many of you read The Grapes of Wrath? Okay, most of you. I have found, and really to my surprise, that as I travel the country and ask people that question, hands shoot up all over the country. In fact, sometimes in foreign countries. What's The Grapes of Wrath about? It's about a very poor but very well-meaning, honest family from Oklahoma who's lost hope. Really, they're desperate. And they're going to California for the idea that there can be a better life. And they're getting on Route 66 with all their belongings and they're heading west. But this book is almost required reading in English classes throughout the country. I used to think it was something we did to our children to ensure that they would feel bad about themselves. But no, this required reading tells this amazing story that doesn't exactly end well or very optimistically. But it's funny now you look at the census data because they track relocations. And it appears that the grandchildren of that generation are coming back. They're moving to Oklahoma City in record numbers from North Texas and California. These are in-migrations that we have never seen in our city or our state's history. We're gaining population from these. We're attracting highly educated 20-somethings. Now, here's one of the issues politically. Because to change something in Oklahoma and Oklahoma City in our very populous state constitution, you almost have to vote on something, right? You have to go to the polls and let people vote. And who is more likely to accept change? Young people or older people? Young people. Who's more likely to vote? Young people or older people? That's right. I see the heads nodding. Older people. So it's almost as if the political art of being the mayor of Oklahoma City is to convince old people to use taxes to build things for young people. And that may be why it fails in so many other places. Because it's not easy, it's not instinctive, because we are not fundamentally allowed to accept change very easily. So my challenge to you is, as you leave and as you continue to keep your eyes open and look for opportunities to lead, watch how leaders handle change. Watch how leaders can try and convince people to follow them, because you can change 20 things, and let's say that each of those changes was accepted and appreciated by 95% of the people. Well, mathematically, you could have made everybody mad by now. Change leadership is extremely important. It's important in your business, in your family. It's important in your politics. Pay attention to change leadership. But right now, it's time to change speakers. Thank you all. Thanks.